Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hare Radha Madhava Kunjabi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hare Yara Madhava Kunjabi Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivada Dhari Girivada Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivada Dhari Yasodhanandana Praja Janaran Jana Yasodhanandana Praja Janaran Jana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hare Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Astataru Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Abhay Charanaravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki ISKCON founder BBT, founder Srila Prabhupada ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrind ki. Antaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Vyasadev ki jai. Guru Parampara ki jai. Bhaktivedanta purports ki jai. Natai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga Gaur Premanande Hari Hari. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 2, entitled Ajamil, delivered by the Vishnu Dutas. So today's will be a series of texts, 29, 30, with no purports, and text 31 has a short purport, and then we'll discuss up to text 32. I'm not sure what's on board. 29. We'll shift. Okay. So I will just read text 29, 30, and 31, and then we'll do text 32 responsively. Okay? Text 29. Soham vyaktam patisyami. Okay. Narake brishada rune. Dharma jnana kameno yatra. Vindati yama yatanaha. Mataji's. And Ajamil continues to speak in the translation in his lamentable and regretful nature. And in text 29 in the translation, Ajamil says, "It is now clear that as a consequence of such activities, a sinful person like me must be thrown into hellish conditions meant for those who have broken religious principles and must there suffer extreme miseries." Now text 30. Kim idam swapnaho sweet shakshadristam ihad bhutam kvayata adyate ye mam vyakashan pasapanaya. Translation. Was this a dream I saw, or was it reality? I saw fearsome men with ropes in their hands coming to arrest me and drag me away. Where have they gone? Text 31. Atate kva gata siddhas chat varas charudashana vya mochayan niyamanam badva pashay adho bhuvaha. Translation. And where have these four liberated and very beautiful persons gone, who released me from arrest and saved me from being dragged down to the hellish regions? Short purport by Srila Prabhupada. As we have learned from the descriptions in the 5th canto, the hellish planets are situated in the lower portions of this universe. Therefore they are called Adho Bhuvaha. Ajamil could understand that the Yamadutas had come from that region. Text 32. Atapi me durbhagasya Vibhudottama darshane bhavitavyam mangalena yenatma me prasidhyati. And the word for word. Atha, therefore, api, although, me, of me, durbhagasya, so unfortunate, vibhuddha uttama, exalted devotees, darshane, because of seeing, bhavitavyam, there must be, mangalena, auspicious activities, yena, by which, atma, self, me, my, prasidati, actually becomes happy. In the translation, you can repeat some words at a time. Ajamil speaks. I am certainly most abominable, and unfortunate to have merged in an ocean of sinful activities. But nevertheless, because of my previous spiritual activities, I could see those four exalted personalities who came to rescue me. Now I feel exceedingly happy because of their visit. Beautiful purport by Srila Prabhupada. As stated in the Chaitanya Charitamrita from the Madhya Lila, chapter 22, text 54, Sadhu Sangha Sarva Shastrikaya Lavamatra Sadhu Sange Sarva Siddhihaya. In translation, association with devotees is recommended by all the Shastras because by even a moment of such association one can receive the seed for all perfection. Unquote. In the beginning of his life, Ajamil was certainly very pure, and he associated with devotees and brahmanas. Because of that pious activity, even though he was fallen, he was inspired to name his son Narayana. Certainly this was due to good counsel given from within by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, text 15, Sarvasya chaham hridayasanivisto mattasmiti jnanam apohanam cha. Quote, I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. Unquote. The Lord, who is situated in everyone's heart, is so kind that if one has ever rendered service to him, the Lord never forgets him. Thus the Lord from within gave Ajamil the opportunity to name his youngest son Narayana, so that in affection he would constantly call Narayana, Narayana. Everyone loudly? Narayana, Narayana. And Srila Prabhupada says in another place that this name has 4 syllables. Therefore, Narayana. That's why I pronounced it like that. That's how Ajamil called out. Let's read that again. The Lord, who is situated in everyone's heart, is so kind that if one has ever rendered service to him, the Lord never forgets him. Thus the Lord from within gave Ajamil the opportunity to name his youngest son Narayana, so that in affection he would constantly call Narayana, 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 and thus be saved from the most fearful and dangerous condition at the time of his death. Such is the mercy of Krishna. Guru Krishna Prasade Paya Bhakti Lata Beach. By the mercy of the Guru and Krishna, one receives the seed of Bhakti. This association saves a devotee from the greatest fear. In our Krishna consciousness movement, we therefore change a devotee's name to a form that reminds him of Vishnu. If at the time of death the devotee can remember his own name, such as Krishna Das or Govinda Das, he can be saved from the greatest danger. Therefore, the change of names at the time of initiation is essential. The Krishna consciousness movement is so meticulous that it gives one a good opportunity to remember Krishna somehow or other. I need a Bhagavad Gita, book Bhagavad Gita. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. And during Srila Prabhupada's time, there was a legal case proceeding against us. And it was called the Robin George case. Anyone remember this? It's like they have they opened a criminal charge against ISKCON that we are brainwashing their children. So the parents of one particular young girl who joined, I think her name was Robin George or something, they instigated the legal system to take this to court. That we were brainwashing their daughter or granddaughter, and this is what happened to her. So the devotee that was responsible at that time was either temple president or maybe a GBC member, I'm not sure at that time. His name was at that time His Holiness Adikeshav Swami in New York. So when he approached Srila Prabhupada for some guidance and counsel of how to speak in court in relation to the situation, then Srila Prabhupada told him two things. Srila Prabhupada said, you should take all my books into the courtroom. And you should just speak on the basis of, invoking praise to Lord Nishingadev to protect us. So when Adikeshav Swami, our legal representative, our lawyers and so forth, went into the courtroom, so he had to represent us, like coming to the witness stand, and what you all about, you're representing this institution. So when he went into the witness stand, so one devotee just brought all these books out, onto the table. And he said, you honor all our evidences in these books. So the judge sort of replied, "That'll take me some time to look at all these books." Yes. Then he said, "Yes, Your Honor, it's because of reading all these books we can show you how we're washing the brain clean." Prabhupada said something like that. Yeah. So the judge was amused, he was like laughing, "Oh, what's going on here?" Like that. So he postponed the case to a later date so that he could go through the books. Nice judge. Yeah. So when the hearing was remanded to a later date, then they all came back to court. Like that. So then when the judge was speaking, somehow during the proceeding itself, so who's the next witness? From our side. So, so then the one who was, the legal person who was representing us, he said, "Now his name is Gokulananda." So the judge asked, "What?" So then the judge started repeating the names. "Oh, Gokulananda, that's him." Yeah. And then who's the other person? "Oh, her name is Gauravani." Like names, So the judge is repeating these names. Like that. And then all of you, what you do? "Oh, we chant the holy names." Like that. And then one of the witnesses, devotee, says, "Yeah, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare." So when one devotee was there, was recollecting, he said, he saw the judge, he said, "Oh yeah, I read that in your book. What's it again?" "Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare." So he was repeating the devotees' names and he was repeating the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and eventually after some further hearings, the case was dismissed. And then it carried in all the New York, and even the New York Times and the leading newspapers, that Hare Krishna is a bona fide religion because of this decision by that. We became more authentic in the eyes and in the consciousness of the American public. Another time, there's another devotee from Canada, but he may have received initiation from Srila Prabhupada in New Vrindavan in West Virginia. So Srila Prabhupada called him forward, like that. And his other name was called him forward, and somebody said, "This is Bhakti Keith, Keith, Bhakti Keith." So Prabhupada asked him what is the four regulative principles and so forth like that. Then Srila Prabhupada took the beads and gave him, and he said, "Your name is Kamsa Hanta." So everyone started laughing. That's a unique name, Kamsa Hanta. You are the servant of the killer of Kamsa Hanta. Like that. So many years later, in the 80s, he happened to be in South Africa, and I happened to have joined then in the early 80s, like that. So he was overall responsible for the organization and everything, as the main devotee, overall responsible as the chairman of the festival committee and so forth for the grand temple opening of the Shri Shri Radha temple. Huge opening it was in 1985. So there was, as any one given time in South Africa, there was as many as, say, probably almost 40 initiated disciples of Prabhupada serving in the yatra. And he was one of them. They came from Europe, Australia, England, and America. Came there to So one time there was another devotee, he's from England, I think he's probably late now. So his name is Mahavidya Prabhu. So he was our head pujari, our first head pujari there when the temple opened. So I was walking with him, and then he sees this devotee, same devotee. He said, Kamsa, come here. They got brothers. So I was a little, and they're like proper disciples, so we revere and honor them. So I looked at Mahavidya Prabhu. I said, "What's his name?" He said, "No. We call him like that." So he came smiling, Yeah. He said, "Yeah, my God brothers, everyone knows that I have the Kamsa mentality. They'll tell you." So they left out the Hanta part. Like that. So then I asked Kamsa Hanta Prabhu, "Is that still auspicious?" He said, "Yes. Just as Kamsa was thinking unfavorable of Krishna all the time, I also think unfavorably of Krishna. If something happens to me, why is Krishna doing this to me?" Like that. So Prabhupada is nicely mentioning this point of how we can be reminded of Krishna. And he says here, if at the time of death the devotee can remember his own name, that's nice, you can be attached to your own name. Such as Krishna Das or Govinda Das, he can be saved from the greatest danger. Therefore, the change of names at the time of initiation is essential. Now, Ajamil's situation is pretty unique, actually. It's like a rare event in the history of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Amazingly rare. He naturally was brought up in Brahmanical culture. Obviously, may have had a family guru, not like we have an initiating spiritual master. From a young age, maybe possibly from birth. And it is interesting here how Srila Prabhupada says, and I looked at the commentaries of the previous acharyas on these things also, and I never found it in any of the commentaries. Well, I'm looking at the English, translations of the commentaries. But Prabhupada says here, that when Ajamil named his son Narayan, Prabhupada says that he was inspired to name his son Narayan. And how? Certainly this was due to the good counsel given from within by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. See? So this heart from within is the heart of the apparently material body. And accompanied by that heart, within the heart is the, you could say the soul, the spirit soul resides in the heart, accompanied by the super soul. So Prabhupada says here that he was inspired by Narayan himself to name his son Narayan when he was in good standing as in terms of the consciousness of his past samskaras being a pious brahmana, which came out even as he was associating with the prostitute, and then a son was born. See? So, this is not the Paramatma. This is not the Paramatma. The Paramatma is simply, Upadrasna Anumantacha. The Paramatma is simply an overseer and permitter. I often give an example which is sort of my own limited analogy, like that, of the Paramatma. The Paramatma is like a referee in a game. There are two sides. But they have to play according to the rules of the game. And the referee has to ensure that the rules are being followed. And eventually the referee will award, victory to one side and loss to another side. Or even. But that's the referee's decision. But they have to play according to the rules of the game. The referee has nothing to do with the result of the game. The result is by the actions of both sides. So the referee is simply an overseer and a permitted by the actions of opposing teams. So that's the Paramatma. It doesn't interfere with your free will of how you want to play the game of material life. But it makes sure that it follows the laws of material nature. And you are either awarded victory or you get loss. That's the simple example I can give in relation to Paramatma. But what is spoken about here is Chaitya Guru. That it is not that Paramatma as being neutral, but ensuring that you are following the laws of nature. But it is Chaitya Guru. Chaitya means heart, and Prabhupada beautifully references the verse of Bhagavad Gita, Sarvasya Chaham Hridaya, Sannivistu Mattasmiti Jnanam Apahonam Cha. So that is a little bit more than the simple neutrality function of the Paramatma. Chaitya Guru is a little bit more. And then Srila Prabhupada quotes, Guru Krishna, Prasad Paya Bhakti Lata Beach. So that is also Guru, the Chaitya Guru. And the external manifestation of the Chaitya Guru is the members of the disciplic succession, that is Diksha and Shiksha Gurus. So can you imagine Narayan did that to Ajamil? First, Narayan inspired him to name his son. And then Narayan came into his consciousness unknowing to Ajamil to call out for his son in affection, which in fact was touching the heart of Narayan himself in affection, which is given here by Srila Prabhupada. Then we can use the English word for super soul, but we can use the Sanskrit words for the different functionalities of the super soul. So one is Paramatma, neutral, as a referee in a game, without bribing. And the other is the Chaitya Guru, that gives you direction internally to accept the process of Krishna consciousness externally and brings you into contact with devotees, Shiksha Gurus, and a Diksha Guru. Okay. But Ajamil didn't need that. He was in a more fortunate position. See? So that's Chaitya Guru. Then there's the super soul. I'm not using the word Paramatma or Chaitya Guru in relationship to Krishna in Krishna Ras. And Srila Prabhupada mentioned it in the English language. I wouldn't term it as Chaitya Guru, or I wouldn't term it as Paramatma. And he very wonderfully describes this in the Krishna book. That when the Dvija Patnis, the wives of the Brahmanas who first was attached to the ritualistic ceremonies, refused to give Bhoga, when Krishna and Balaram sent the cowherd boys to beg that we are here and so forth. See? And Krishna reminded, them, take Balaram's name first because, because he apparently comes from a Kshatriya background, so that's higher than me as a Vaishya. So they may give something. But they were attached to being Brahmanas. But when they came back, and then Krishna sent them to the wives of the Brahmanas. And naturally the wives of the Brahmanas were above this Daivi Varna Ashram Dharma, but they had more affection for Krishna and Balaram. So when they freely gave, and Krishna and Balaram freely received the affection through the bhoga offerings to them, given to the cowherd boys and brought to them, then the wives of the Brahmanas came for darshan. But they couldn't come close because they are married to the Brahmanas. See? So from a distance, the wives of the Brahmanas could get darshan of Krishna and Balaram. And Krishna looks so affectionately towards the wives of the Brahmanas from a distance that it is stated by Srila Prabhupada that Krishna entered into their hearts. Can you imagine? He kept their sort of so-called marriage as wives of the Brahmanas, but he entered the hearts. So Prabhupada calls that Paramatma in Krishna Leela. That the Krishna as the Paramatma entered into their hearts and they felt completely satisfied in serving Krishna because they wanted his association. But Krishna entered into their hearts, which is the heart of the living entity of the soul, not the material body, not the material heart, where you can have a heart transplant and put another one there. It's the heart of the form of that Dvijapatnis. The form of the Dvijapatnis were called gopis or elderly gopis. They have the form of devotional service. And within the form of devotional service is a heart. Not the material heart of the material body. So that is not the Paramatma or the Chaitya Guru. This is Krishna personally looking at them and entering into the hearts in that type of form which Prabhupada, as best as he can, calls another type of Paramatma, another type of like super soul in English language. So it's quite interesting. There's a three features of the super soul. One is neutral, one is bringing you as Chaitya Guru from the material consciousness into spiritual consciousness, and other is completely you are in spiritual consciousness and entering into your heart. In the rasa itself, you don't have a material form. You have a form of devotional service. We all right? Now, we can understand that if somebody is involved in sinful activity from their birth, like when Srila Prabhupada went to the Bowery in Lower Manhattan in New York, they were all engaged in sinful activity from their birth, and they thought that is normal. They didn't know it was not correct until Srila Prabhupada stepped into the scene in Lower Manhattan in New York. See? But at the same time, if you compare that to Ajamil, he had very good samskara from birth. Brahmanical culture, he was brought up in it. See? He was brought up in it. Whereas those in the Western world, when Prabhupada first went there, they were not even born into it. It's like, Srila Prabhupada used to say, that when he first entered the Bowery in Lower Manhattan in New York, he said that I have entered into a place that is lawless. Lawless means no laws apply here. Now, it is well known from a material perspective that the most feared police force in the world is NYPD, New York Police Department. But in the Bowery, in the Lower Manhattan side, which was formerly called Skids Row, the older persons will know that term, Skids Row. Even the NYPD won't go in there, although they were the most powerful police force at one time. So Prabhupada entered into such a situation where the fragrance was two things. One is that the streets were tainted with blood. Now blood smells. And when you walk there, you can only smell urine. That's how it was. And Prabhupada said something like, you get the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. See? And ignorance is black. Passion is red. And sattva gun is white. See? But Prabhupada said this place is the darkest of the darkest. It doesn't fit into the three modes of material nature. It's darker than dark. So he entered into such a situation. So here, although Ajamil was brought up in Brahmanical culture and subsequently, due to not so nice association, became contaminated, still he remembered the samskaras of his, and then he got saved as the result, and Narayan himself as the Chaitya Guru was there for him. Srila Prabhupada is more than that. I'll read for you. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So there's a beautiful group of verses, and I always like to recite all these verses myself. In chapter 13 of the Bhagavad Gita, they group together and they are translated together, text 8 to 12. It's called the process of knowledge, or knowledge itself. Okay, so I'll just read the verses. If you know the words, you can just follow with me, not after me. Okay. Amanitvam adambitvam ahimsa shantirarjavam acharya upasanam socham stairyam atma vinigraha indriyateshu vairagyam ahanyankara evacha janma michu jara vyadi dukkha doshanudashanam ashaktir anabhisvanga putradara grihadishu nityam cha samachitatvam istanisto papatishu mahichananya yogena bhaktir avyabhicharini viviktadesha sevitvam arati jana samsadi adhyatma jnana nityatvam tattva jnana tadashanam etach jnanam iti proktam Ajnanam yad atanyata. So there's one amazing word which Prabhupada extracted from this group of verses, and he uses it many, many times in other purports, just the word on its own. But it's made up of two words, Acharya Upasana. You'll read it so many times in other purports and talks. Acharya Upasana. Can anyone help us with the meaning? Acharya Upasana. He's very intelligent, he's looking at it in his phone. Nice, you don't want to get it wrong. Approaching a bona fide? Yeah, that's in the translation itself. Approaching a bona fide spiritual master. Now I'll read that feature in the purport that discusses Acharya Upasana because the purport is quite lengthy. So in relation to Acharya Upasana, if you want to put it, this is important to put it on the screen because I want to shred this up. It's in paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th paragraph. It starts with the word simplicity. Go. Further. Yes. That's the paragraph it begins with. So if we go down, it says, as for acceptance of the spiritual master. We're with me? That now tells us about Acharya Upasana. Okay? I'm reading. Now you have to look at the screen if you can. It's very lucky we have it on the screen so you can see how important this is. As for acceptance of the spiritual master, that is essential. Because without the instruction of a bona fide spiritual master, one cannot progress in the spiritual science. One should approach the spiritual master with all humility and offer him all services so that he will be pleased to bestow his blessings upon the disciple. Because a bona fide spiritual master is a representative of Krishna, which is the Chaitanya Guru in the heart, if he bestows any blessings upon his disciple, that will make the disciple immediately advanced without the disciples following the regulative principles. When I first read this, I was shocked. What's the next word in the next sentence? Or. That means it's a separate thought. It's a separate feeling from Prabhupada. It doesn't go to the previous sentence I just read. Or. The regulative principles would be easier for one who has served the spiritual master without reservation. Now let's read the previous sentence. That's the one I'm focusing on. Because a bona fide spiritual master is a representative of Krishna, if he bestows any blessings upon his disciple, that will make the disciple immediately, not waiting. Just like in a Narayan, immediately send the Vishnu Dutas, go and save him. But this is a little different because they didn't have any samskara from birth. Whereas Ajamil had some samskara from birth, Brahmanical culture. So how much more merciful you have to be here. See, I'll read again. That's the main sentence. Because, you there? Okay. Because a bona fide spiritual master is a representative of Krishna, if he bestows any blessings upon his disciple, that will make the disciple immediately advanced without the disciples following the regulative principles. However, this is dependent upon that disciple was in good standing and has pleased the spiritual master, which Prabhupada says before that. But now he may be having some difficulties spiritually. But the spiritual master does not forget that service that pleased him from that wayward disciple who may not be situated spiritually in his practices now. And the spiritual master can still bless him without him following the 4 regulative principles. So there was one devotee, there is a devotee rather. He's originally from South Africa, but he joined in America. He didn't join ISKCON in South Africa. His name is, Prabhupada named him Ranjit Das, R-A-N-J-I-T, or R-A-N-A-J-I-T, Ranjit. So he serves for many years in the Bhaktivedanta archives. So, because I was from South Africa, so I contacted him. So I said, can you go to the microfiche? Microfiche is like a film type of thing that preserves Prabhupada's words. He asked, why? I said, you must go to the original dictation of Srila Prabhupada, and I want to see whether there's a mistake. Because this is not regular dharmam shusakshat bhagavat pranitam. This is not regular dharma given by the Supreme Lord Himself. It is beyond that. It is beyond that. That Srila Prabhupada can still bless a disciple to make spiritual advancement, even if the disciple is not following properly, because the disciple at one time has pleased Srila Prabhupada. It's very clear. So when he looked into the archives materials, the original dictaphone tapes and into the purports, he said, no, it is as it is. There's no mistake. So I would comfortably say, although Narayan himself is merciful to Ajamil, but based on his previous samskara, but yet they didn't have any samskara. Srila Prabhupada is even more merciful than Ajamil. Is beyond the dictates of Dharma. Is beyond the dictates of Shastra. And you cannot attribute any pramanam to this. You cannot attribute any Vedic evidences to what is here. It's beyond. I'm not sure if anyone can recount some verses from Chaitanya Charitamrita in relation to Srila Krishna's Kavirya's glorifying Madhavinda Puri. I remember some words. It says dharma hetu samstapa something. Give. I can't recollect all the words.
Dharma stapana hetu sadhura vyavahar.
Translation?
Actually, the behavior of a saintly person establishes dharma.
Great. So that means the behavior of a saintly person is beyond dharmam to shakshat bhagavat pranita. Is beyond the dharma that is established by the Supreme Lord. Because the behavior of a saintly person is beyond the scriptural dharma. See? Because the compassionate nature of a saintly person cannot be understood by Krishna himself. Therefore, he took the role of a devotee as Lord Chaitanya. And that is Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada is not really a Bhagavata Uttama Adhikari. Srila Prabhupada is a Shakta Avesh. He's specially empowered. I think His Holiness Giriraj Swami said something like that recently. Srila Prabhupada is Shakta, is especially empowered, and beyond that. Because even Krishna becomes bewildered by this personality. How can he be so compassionate? Even Krishna cannot extend such compassion. It has no depth, it has no height, and it is boundless without any boundaries. That this is divine grace, says Bhakti Swami Prabhupada. And this is proof, one proof at least, amongst many other proofs. Any comments or questions you'd like to share with us? Yes, Radhe Shyam Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mahraj. Mahraj, this statement first when I read, I understood it in a certain way. I wanted to check with you the same statement, whether my understanding is correct. When I read it, I thought that, for example, Jagai and Madai were not following any regulative principles. As soon as they met Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya...
But they were Brahmanas before, like Ajami.
No, they were actually degraded completely.
No, but they had some training. They come from a Brahmanical community.
Yeah,
You may be aware of that.
They were actually Jagadananda, Madhavananda, they were born in a Brahmana family.
Yes. They had some samskara.
But Mrigari,
the hunter.
the hunter, as soon as Narada told him, you break the bow, he broke the bow, at once he went from ground level to the light years ahead, he made progress.
Yes.
And he started chanting the holy name, wearing Urdhapunda, Tilak and Kantimala, everything came instantly.
Wouldn't even tramp an ant.
Yeah, so much so. So my understanding was, a person can be a sinner for a long period of time. As soon as he surrenders to a pure devotee, that surrender is what elevates him instantly. Now, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave Srivas Thakur's tailor, that one Muslim tailor, he gave him love of God. He gave Dukhi also, he gave her Sukhi, love of God. He said, even a dog in the home of Srivas Thakur is very dear to my heart. So one thing I understood is, if somebody is connected to a very pure, great pure devotee, that like our Amogha also, he was a son-in-law of Sarvamata. So connection to a pure devotee brings like Kripa Siddhi, Kripa Siddhi, the mercy comes. That's one thing I understood. Another thing I understood is, you're a very, very bad, sinful person. If he surrenders to a pure devotee like Nityananda or Srila Prabhupada, there is one verse in Bhagavatam which says, Bhaktim param bhagavati pratilabhya kamam hrid rogam ashu apahinoti achirena dhiraha. This verse Chakravarti Thakur explains that even before lust is removed from the heart of the practitioner, Bhakti Devi enters.
Nice.
And then initially there is only lust, then there is Bhakti and lust, then there is only Bhakti and lust is driven out, he says. So this is the same principle I understood, that a sinner is charmed by a pure devotee. That charm he feels in a pure devotee is his qualification.
Nice. Thank you very much. Just to support it, to take it further in my sort of realization of the verse, for whatever it's worth. I'm not going to give names. There are several leading disciples of Srila Prabhupada who are very close to him and personally trained by him. And subsequently even during Prabhupada's time, some of them, or maybe others after Prabhupada left us, left us like no more his manifest presence, like Prakat. They became weak spiritually and they went back to their old ways. But at the time of leaving, somehow they landed in Sri Vrindavan. Some were riddled with old age, some were riddled with cancer. And Prabhupada came for them. That's what I'm speaking about.
Maharaj, Sudama Maharaj is also Sudama Maharaj.
Yes.
Or, Surabhi.
No, you're mentioning the names, but I'm not.
No, but why I'm telling Maharaj, these are 2-3 examples devotees are taking shelter of, in order to say that even if you fall down, no problem.
No. We should not do that.
Yeah, that's what many people do that.
No, we don't do that. But what I'm saying is that, if for some reason or the other, without hurting others, you become spiritually weak, outside of the society, not within ISKCON. That's a little different. You leave the association of devotees, You go to the regular so-called unfavorable activities of the material world with those who are not devotees. But somehow they are the Prabhupada arranges for you at the end. Oh, come. Because they have pleased Srila Prabhupada by this service. Now they may be displeasing, but once they have pleased him, Prabhupada doesn't forget that. And he brings them to that point. But he doesn't give the license to go and do that and then think that by some Guru Kripa you'll come back again. That's not what we're talking about here.
Maharaj, there is a director within and a preceptor without.
Clearly, yes.
So the preceptor is not super soul, but he is actually amplifier of the super soul. He amplifies what the super soul speaks in the heart. So when this point about whether Prabhupada arranges the situation and all those things, then there was a question amongst the disciples of Prabhupada that Prabhupada is not a super soul in the heart of everybody.
It's beyond that.
No, beyond in the sense of mercy. Like, the pure devotee of the Lord is more merciful than the Lord by the mercy of the Lord. Like the Prabhupada writes in Bhagavad Gita, that Krishna vinna vichalayet, in that purport.
Okay, I can say it another way. The mercy of the Lord follows the mercy of the devotee. So which is first?
So Lord has, by the mercy of the Lord, the pure devotee is given that lenience by the Lord due to the love of the Lord for the devotee. Kintu prabhorya priyaiva tasya, because of that.
But I'm making this statement, Prabhupada makes it often. The mercy of the Lord follows the mercy of the devotee. But Radhe Shyam is explaining to us the devotee cannot give mercy if he did not receive from the mercy of the Lord. That's what you're trying to imply. One second. In other words, at one time that devotee didn't have mercy.
I didn't say that.
He didn't say that, but I am begging the question.
That's a wrong implication.
I am begging the question.
Actually, the devotee of the... Actually, I'm quoting verbatim from Prabhupada's purport.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, correct.
But there's no contradiction in what we are discussing. This is nice. We're churning, which is wonderful, and I am relishing it, every moment of it.
Yes, Maharaj.
So, from the point of sadhana bhakti, we say that the mercy of the Lord follows the mercy of the devotee. My impressionable point for today is that the devotee is more merciful than the Lord.
By the mercy of the Lord.
By the mercy of the Lord. Okay. So when you give scriptural examples, I can also give you a scriptural example right now. When one gives scriptural examples, it restricts itself to Dharmam tu Shakshat Bhagavat Pranitam. But bhakti or devotion is beyond knowledge, which I said yesterday or day before. You cannot attribute scriptural examples to Srila Prabhupada. You cannot say, oh, why did he have brahmacharini in the ashram, so somebody criticized, because it's not scriptural. How come a sannyasi, engages in having a marriage ceremony, all these things. So when you throw the scripture in, then how you explain this? So I'll give you an example. You see, Vasudeva was Krishna's father. Krishna is Vasudeva, but Vasudeva and Devaki. Vasudeva was quite potent as a Kshatriya to kill Kamsa. Yes or no? Because he had the Supreme Lord on his side. If somebody attacks your wife, you have to kill if you're a Kshatriya. But he didn't do that. So Vasudeva is merciful. And Devaki is merciful. To who? To Kamsa. But Krishna. You see me as enemy, I see you as enemy. Let's fight. Either you kill me or I kill you. But not Vasudeva and Devaki. Kamsa, you're seeing as an enemy, we still see you as family. We're not your enemies. It's a scriptural example.
Maharaj, he applied Samaveda Damadanda.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But-
in order to see that Krishna will be
But
born.
Krishna could not apply that himself. So therefore the devotee is more merciful than the Lord, although the mercy may come from the Lord itself, to be more merciful according to you.
Maharaj, in one lecture, Prabhupada says that although Krishna is called Parth Sarathi in this world, it is not that all the time Krishna is driving the chariot of Arjuna in the spiritual
Nice.
world.
Nice.
Prabhupada says. Actually,
Prabhupada
Lord
also-
bending, like father taking the son on his back, is done out of love, But father's position is different than the son.
Okay. So now I will support from scripture what Radhesham says, just to compliment him. I was playing a little bit with him. Is it okay? In the Nectar of Devotion, Srila Prabhupada says that Radharani is the compassionate nature of Krishna. Because Krishna has to follow Dharma, but Radharani doesn't have to follow Dharma. And Radharani comes from Krishna.
Why does Krishna follow Dharma? If you see Krishna, Krishna's, many of the dealings are beyond Dharma, transcendental.
I instigated you, go ahead. I know what I did. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Give us one example.
Yeah, like Krishna dancing with others' wives in the rasa dance, for example. It is not up to according to Dharma, but it is transcendental. Krishna stealing butter is transcendental. There are 18 things Krishna does,
Yes,
which,
yes.
which are called as, for him it's bhushanam, for the jivas they are dushanam.
Yeah,
and
but
all
that-
of them are breaking the Dharma actually.
No, but that is not that Krishna you're speaking about. We are talking about Vasudeva Krishna. We are talking about Narayan who has to follow Dharma.
Actually,
Not
Vasudeva Krishna different from Radharani's Krishna, Shyam Sundar.
Yes.
Therefore, I am
Clear.
giving, because you told about Radharani, I gave Shyam Sundar example I gave.
Can you see how he can be, Radhesham Prabhu can be very naughty in a nice way.
I want to say one thing in support of
You're
your
bringing a
statement.
lot of hasya rasya, that's nice. See, Shyamasundar is not God. Narayan or Vasudeva Krishna is God. So one time I gave a class in Mayapur and I said, Krishna is not God. What?
He doesn't play God.
Huh?
He doesn't play God. He doesn't play the role of God.
No, Krishna never plays the role of God. Krishna is Krishna. Krishna is not Narayan or Vasudeva Krishna. They are expansions of Krishna. They are godly expansions of Krishna. Krishna is not God. Krishna is simply a coward boy. That's beyond Dharma.
One thing about mercy which you said, I see that it is confirmed in the Shastra is Dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhayam. Mahajano yena gata sapanta.
Yeah.
So that nihitam guhayam, is also confirmed in one more verse in the 11th canto. Chayeva karma sachiva sadavo dina vatsala. There it says that the mercy of a pure devotee can cut through the karma of the living entity and uplift him. Whereas the dharma flows in a direction where everybody has to reap the fruits of their karma.
Exactly. So therefore, the mercy of your pure devotee can stop your karma of repeated birth, Prabhupada says, famous of repeated birth, old age, disease, and that can come from the mercy of the pure devotee. He speaks in the contrary, then he supports me. Thank you very much. It was wonderful. Any of the Matajis have any comments or questions? I see some hands up from the Prabhus. It's a little late, sorry. Radhesham Prabhu, time is over too. A few more minutes. Okay. You know what we just did? What is that? Ham sarvasya prabhava mata savapara. What's the next verse? The Chatusloki Bhagavad Gita. Machita madgada prana bodhayantas paraspara. Tusyanticha. Yeah. So that's what we just did. You see that? Radhesham and I, we just did that. We activated that verse into action. And the next verse? Bhajati Priti. Dhammi Mudi Yoga. But the verse before that, devotees exchange with each other, lovingly. We're just living that verse, one of the Chatusloki verses. Shanticha Ramanticha. Yes. Microphone. Who has the microphone? Where? Who has microphone there but the Vaishnavis Matajis? You have a question there? Someone? No? Yes. Okay, bring the microphone this side. We'll take. There's some hands up here, so let's see which. No. Who didn't ask a question in the last few days? You didn't ask a question yet? Okay, give him microphone.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you very much.
The brahmacharis can relax a little bit for now.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you very much for the class.
What's your name?
Adi Bhagwan Das.
Who is the first Bhagavan?
And last, and the servant.
There's other Bhagavans to follow, right? Okay, Adi Bhagavan Prabhu, tell us.
Maharaj, I wanted to share one point from Giriraj Swami Maharaj's book, Watering the Seed. In one of the chapters, he mentions about the Acharya creating a path. And he mentions that how Srila Prabhupada, coming as an Acharya, he has given us the path of chanting 16 rounds and following the 4 regulative principles, which are like giving the details of the Dharma. And Krishna, even though the detailed mention is not there in the scripture, but Krishna accepts it as a path. And the Bhagavatam commentary, shloka he quotes from, if I'm not wrong, it is 9th canto, 10th canto. Yes, that shloka he is going to quote. So
you wanted to quote same one? You wanted to quote that sloka from your research?
You wanted to quote the purport? Okay. So one point was that, Maharaj. And another question which I had is that, Maharaj, in this purport where Prabhupada is mentioning about regulative principles, I see, Maharaj, there are 2 kinds of devotees. One kind of devotee is who is taking the advantage of the path of devotional service to nullify his breakage of regulative principles, and he is exploiting the path. And another kind of devotee is who is very much regretful, like Ajamila, and wanting to give off that breaking of regulative principles and wanting to follow it by taking a shelter of Prabhupada and other acharyas. So my question is that whether this purport is applying to first type of devotee or the second?
No, the purport applies to Srila Prabhupada. You must know from which perspective. We're not talking about willfully violating the regulative principles and going away. That's what we discussed earlier. You have to know from which perspective to see this purport. This purport is seen from the perspective of Prabhupada's compassion, not from our judgmental view of who is doing what is doing. Say, for example, you may judge somebody, this won't apply to this person because he's breaking the regular principle. Prabhupada will not help him. Who are you to say that Prabhupada will not help him?
Ask him.
You understand? Yeah. So it's Prabhupada, it's Srila Prabhupada's prerogative. It's the prerogative of any devotee who wants to give mercy. You cannot stop that flow. That is more powerful than your judgment of who is qualified and who is not qualified to receive this Guru Kripa. So we cannot be judgmental on our discussion. We see it from the perspective of the purport. And who is giving the purport? Srila Prabhupada. So we should accept what he accepts. That's Anukulena Krishna Anusilanam Bhakti, the representative of Krishna.
Yes.
Is that okay?
Yes, thank you, Maharaj.
So I think we should conclude.
There's one small thing, Maharaj. The
It
word
may be a big response.
clarification on what is this regulative principle word which
He
is
already has the microphone, it's okay.
the regulative principles word which is here, Maharaj. He's saying this, that will make the disciple immediately advance without the disciples following the regulative principles. Can we also have an alternate reading to this saying that?
No. I've checked it with the archives. It means the 4 regulative principles. It means meat eating, intoxication, gambling, and illicit activity. It means associating with non-devotees. It doesn't affect devotees. You go outside of the association of devotees.
That's right, Maharaj. I just wanted to check my whether it's correct. Regulated devotional service, that is sadhana bhakti. That means he can get the mercy of the Acharya, Kripa Siddhi, and he can advance. Is that also right meaning here?
Let me ask you a question. Are you the son of your father?
Sorry?
Are you the son of your father?
Yes.
Can you disown your father as the son?
No.
You can. You'll go away from the family, right?
Yes.
But will your father disown you even if you break?
No.
That's what we're talking about here.
Yes, Maharaj.
You may give up Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada will never give you up. That's what's happening here.
Yes, it's clear.
That's how deep the consciousness of Srila Prabhupada is. Sorry, Adi Bhagavan, you first. I was supposed to have treated you first. Is that okay? So can you just read for us what you'd like to read and then we'll conclude for today. There's other hands up also, but Mahaprasadi Govind.
This is
just read for us.
This is from Madhurya Kadambini.
No.
I will read the statement.
Hold on a second. You're reading from Prabhupada's books or what?
No, translated.
No. I thought you can read from Prabhupada's books. Is that okay for now? Yeah. So we'll conclude that Srila Prabhupada and Srila Prabhupada's followers are merciful. They will never give you up, even if you give them up. That's the purport. And I'll say one extreme situation. I may have read it somewhere, but it applies to Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada indicated that even if somebody is against me, even if somebody is offensive to me, still I will not give them up. And why is that? Is because I have looked at Srila Prabhupada's letters very carefully. And even if you go to the Vedabase, you put some hits on it and you'll see. Very rarely Srila Prabhupada says, my dear disciple. Very rarely. say out of say 4,000 hits, I'm just giving an estimated figure, right? You'll get maybe 200 hits Prabhupada will say in his letters, my dear disciples. Mainly, Srila Prabhupada says, my dear sons and daughters. My dear beloved sons and daughters. He uses that more. So that's more than guru, more than founder acharya. That's family. That is family. So even if you try to kill your father will not give you up to that extreme. He will still come for you. Or to speak of otherwise, even if you insult your father will not give you up. Just from those letters, my dear sons and daughters, he says that. So he's more than a founder acharya, he's more than a guru. He's family. Srila Prabhupada ki, Ananta Kodi Vaishnava Vranda ki,
Hare Krishna.
ISKCON Pune Yatra ki, Taigo Pramanande. Hare.
I want to speak a couple of minutes. After this, Mahraj is going back on Monday. Tomorrow and day after, we have His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj giving Srimad Bhagavatam class. So I want to thank Maharaj. The last part of the class which we are speaking now, when we hear this, our heart has to actually cry, seeing the mercy of Prabhupada, our spiritual master. So in the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Vishnu talking to Durvasa says that my devotee, he possesses 2 qualifications which even make me wonder. He says, one qualification he says is, my devotees don't even aspire for moksha also. He says, they don't want anything but loving devotion service. And the second thing the Lord says is this one, what Maharaj spoke about elaborately today. He says that the kripa that my devotee possesses is so charming to me that even when I say, Krishna venna vichalayat, means just to leave that fellow, he's not interested in me. But devotee wants to give one more chance and get them to me. So Lord Vishnu tells Durvasa, these are the 2 reasons why I love Ambarish very much, he says. So Maharaj, one of the specialities of Maharaj's class you must have observed, he will make a statement which is like a bomb. And then which will put you to thinking. Like the previous class he gave, he said that, see, the prostitute didn't come to Ajamil. Ajamil went to the prostitute. When he said that, it was so stunning. Whole day it was ringing in my head. I never thought about this. That means Maya doesn't chase after you. You chase after Maya. So he speaks very softly, but softly puts a bomb in such a way that he will put you to thinking. So we are looking forward to getting more such bombs in future from Maharaj. And we want him to come more often. And in those years, Maharaj used to come for a week. One long week he would come and give this Japashraya and Bhakti Sadhana courses. At that time, I've been telling Maharaj that Maharaj, make Pune one of your places of visit in India whenever you come. I think he comes twice a year. You come, Maharaj, yeah, India.
I try to.
At least both times, one week at least you can keep for Pune, Maharaj. It'll be nice. So let's thank Maharaj, His Holiness Bhakti Brihat Swami Maharaj ki. Let's thank him with 3 loud Hari Bol. Hari Bol.
Just to let you know, there's some special classes tomorrow morning and Sunday morning by His Holiness Giriraj Swami. He gave some brief of those classes in Vrindavan also. He is going to speak on the new manuscript, which is ready, but it's being edited for publishing, of traveling with Srila Prabhupada in India from 1970, 1971, when those 30 disciples were chosen by Prabhupada to come with him. So it's not going to be a regular Bhagavatam class. It's going to give us nectar of Srila Prabhupada Lila Katha with his early disciples. Some things you haven't heard of before, maybe a lot of them, for the new book. Srila Prabhupada ki, Ananta Kodi, Vaishnava Vranda ki, Bhagavat breakfast prasadam ki.